That's right. It's the morning show right here on ABC News Radio KMET 1490 AM. Joining our live audience over there on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube Live as well. I'm super happy to have somebody here with us all the way from the other side of the world, joining us via Skype. We've got with us right now Yaroslav Sivolsky, who is the representative of the European Association of Jehovah's Witnesses. Good morning and welcome to the show, Yaroslav.
Good morning.
Now, Yaroslav, you are joining us because there's a very interesting thing happening in Russia, and unfortunately, it is not something that is helping those of your own members of the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. Can you speak on that?
Yes, as you know, in April 2017, Supreme Court of Russia decided to ban Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia and pronounce them as an extremist organization. And after that, we face severe criminal prosecution. Despite the fact that Minister of Justice during the court hearing stated that this ban will affect only legal entities, we had Administrative Center of Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia that was based in St. Petersburg and 395 local religious organizations. All of them was banned by one court decision. And during the court hearing, Minister of Justice stated that it will not affect activity of Jehovah's Witnesses in general, but it was not the case. After few months, Dennis Christensen was jailed. It was first Jehovah's Witnesses who was jailed in Russia in city of Oryol. And then after that, we face big wave of persecution. If we are speaking about figures, for now it was about 1,400 home searches. We have 20 criminal cases opened, about 400 defendants, 35 in pretrial detention, 10 have already been sentenced to a long term of imprisonment up to 6 years. And this critical situation is going on.
Well, Yaroslav, look, there's a couple things that I think the general public is unaware of. When you say criminal activity, what is being defined as criminal activity there in Russia?
You know, we have very strict legislation concerning extremist activity as terrorist activity. This is actually equal. And we have Article 2A2.2 in criminal codes that persecute those who involved in criminal activity, like planning some terrorist or extremism. But after the court decision, this heavy criminal article was applied also to the peaceful activity of Jehovah's Witnesses. And after court decision, Supreme Court decision, anyone in Russia who is Jehovah's Witnesses can be prosecuted by that heavy criminal article. It means that if you are Jehovah's Witnesses, if you preaching or even have family and few friends together and police raid your home, you will be subject for the criminal prosecution.
Yaroslav, look, for those that know, my mother is a devout Jehovah's Witness, okay? So if my mother visited Russia anytime soon, are you saying she could possibly be locked up for just preaching?
Sorry to say, but Dennis Christensen, foreign citizen, just did the same. He spent in Russia a few years. He was married on Russian woman, Irina, and he preached, he practiced his religion, and he was criminally charged up to 6 years in prison, and his imprisonment still continues. Of course, if your mom will come as a tourist, and she will do only tourist stuff, sightseeing, on visiting museum, maybe she will be not prosecuted, of course not. But if she will start to continue and police arrest her, yes, she can be persecuted too.
Now, Yaroslav, if I'm correct as well, though, something is considered as contraband as a book. This is not anything new in history, but I think it's something that's kind of needing to be spoken about, especially here around the world, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but your Bible there, which happens to be a translation of many different translations that are, I mean, the Bible's been translated, I don't know in how many different translations. There's a King James version, there's a New International version, there's so many I can't even think of that go way back. But I understand the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures are technically contraband?
Yes, you are correct. Not only Bible, but more than 80 publications went to the federal list of extremist publications in Russia, simply because some expression was viewed by the biased expert that we feel that we have only true religion. And if you are talking about the Bible, what wrong is in the translation? According to the expert study, mentioning Jehovah's name many times or denying Trinity doctrine is a reason why New World Translation was banned in Russia.
Okay, so in other words, here in the United States of America, we have what is often referred to as separation between church and state. But I understand that Russia also has a certain law already in place to be able to allow people to worship in the way that they currently want to. Or has that been changed, or has that been skewed a bit?
No. We have still in force Article 28 in Constitution that provides freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of conscience. And according to the Constitution, any religion can be practiced in Russia. But this is written law. But after the court decision, law enforcement, they are not viewing us as legal religious organization. They consider us a legal extremist entity or organization. And anyone who claim themselves as a Jehovah's Witnesses, they are subject for the criminal investigation, persecution, and prison.
Speaking of prison, I understand you are not really exempt yourself. You yourself had served some time in prison, and I understand this also has happened to your family members. I don't want to dive too deep into your own background, but do you mind sharing your own experience there?
I was raised in a family of Jehovah's Witnesses in the third generation, and my father and mother originally from Western Ukraine. And after the Second War, when Soviet Union took over this part of the world, all Jehovah's Witnesses, like about 8,000, was sentenced to Siberia. And my father and my mother was also part of this exile. And they married there in Siberia. They had 5 children. I'm in the middle. And while being in Siberia, my father was sentenced for 7 years in real prison, not just exile. And my mom was sentenced for 4 years in prison. When I was 18, I was called to army, and I refused because in that time was no alternative military service, and I refused to go to the army, and I was jailed for 1.5 years.
Well, look, and I understand in one case, I guess it's okay. I'm trying to make sense of it for everyone, because I know some people are thinking, wait, he went to prison because he didn't want to go to the army. Can I ask, is that because of your religious beliefs?
Yeah, sure, because I was Jehovah's Witnesses.
And for those who don't know, what does that mean for you?
According according to the Bible and according to the example of Jesus. Jehovah's Witnesses known they are not participate in any political conflict. They are not. They are very. They are strictly politically neutral, and they are not going to serve in any armies. But they accept alternative military service. And recently, South Korea granted this right to Jehovah's Witnesses. But for many years, our friends in Korea also face same problem. They all young people must go to prison because they refuse to serve in army.
Well, and I bring that up because whenever extremism is spoken of in any type of legal setting, right? And you mentioned it as kind of equivalent to a terrorist type action. Anybody that has ever known any family member and or anybody that knows somebody that has either spoken of the scriptures through Jehovah's Witnesses or been taught by Jehovah's Witnesses at any given time know that Jehovah's Witnesses as a Christian congregation are pretty peaceful and loving. I've never seen any Jehovah's Witness ever throw caution to the wind and say, hey, let's go build a device that will blow up people like some sectors of certain faiths. I've never seen that. Or has that ever come out?
It's absolutely true. You are correct. And that's why our band makes so loud outcry from different government agencies, from United Nations, from Council of Europe, from OEC, and so on, because they know Jehovah's Witnesses, they are peaceful and loving people. They have nothing to do with extremists whatsoever. And to blame Jehovah's Witnesses as extremists is beyond my comprehension. Because when I first heard about this accusation, I start to laugh. How could it be that Jehovah's Witnesses could be accused in extremist activity? But that's the case. And all our crime, so-called, so far, according to court cases, according to expert studies, is only in our publication, our literature, our Bible, our teachings, our doctrines, but nothing to do with our activity. But if you go deeper and try to distinguish what kind of expressions or what kind of quotes could be viewed as extremist, and you will be surprised. Some of Tolstoy, Lev Tolstoy, a famous Russian writer, some of Bible passages, some of, as I already mentioned, from the New World Translation expert study that we believe that God's name is Jehovah, and so on. These innocent quotes, expressions, viewed in Russia as extremist.
Well, and Yaroslav, look, I'm no stranger to the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses. As I've mentioned in past broadcasts, you know, I no longer associate with Jehovah's Witnesses. However, knowing all of the knowledge that I do have, it's not uncommon for people to say the name Yahweh, which is technically the term that many people know is God's name, and yet at the same time, Yeshua being the Jesus name, there was always a differentiating of the two in the Hebrew and the Greek scriptures. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Jehovah's name mentioned in the Bible more than 7,000 times. And Jehovah's Witnesses, over the past decades, they put on their place in the Bible books all these places where Jehovah's God's name should be mentioned. And we did a lot of work, we did a lot of research to find out from the scrolls, from the archaeological discoveries, where and why we use Jehovah's name.
And look, I understand that there's a lot of people going, wait, what? I don't understand that. But even in the King James Version, is the King James Version, if I took the Bible into Russia, banned?
No, we have in Russia Synodal Bible, and even in Synodal Bible, we have few times Jehovah's name exists too.
Yaroslav, I understand, unfortunately, this is happening with couples, with families. I understand there's one of many, but there was a husband and wife duo that recently, they would have had to pay as much as $20,000 US dollars. I don't know how much that is in the currency that you trade there, but what does that mean for the rest of Jehovah's Witnesses? What did that case turn out to be?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you are talking about a couple from Kamchatka region, Konstantin Bajenov and his wife. In his case, judge changed a little bit their sentence to the easier one, but some of families still should pay. And if they have no money, they should sell their car, or government will take their car. Maybe in some cases apartment can be taken by government. And this is not easy situation. And when you are under the criminal prosecution, your bank account is frozen, your money is taken, and you are...
Your life is ruined, it sounds like.
Yeah, yes, ruined.
All for professing faith in God. And look, okay, so take away the court system right now, and let's talk about just the morality of this all. I gotta ask this question: Does it those that are currently Jehovah's Witnesses serving in the region, about how many approximately are there in the region of Russia?
Before ban, we have 175,000 of Jehovah's Witnesses in whole Russia. After the ban, we have heard about some cases when our friends must leave the country because they can't stand with this tremendous psychological pressure on them or their family, because they're always afraid that in the middle of the night or in the early morning they will be knocked by the door, open police, they will be raided, they will be even beaten, even tortured. We have few cases where our friends was severely tortured, like in Surgut. Our friends, 7 Jehovah's Witnesses, were tortured by electric guns. They were beaten merely for practicing their religion. Or police want to know who is the leaders or elders in the congregation, who is Jehovah's Witnesses in Surgut city, on some this similar simple question. For that, they were severely beaten. And of course, after that, some friends decided to leave. But most of Jehovah's Witnesses stay in Russia under these pressures, and they still try to do their best to follow Jesus' commandment, to be a good citizen, to be good parents, to be good worker, to pay tax, to obey government, despite this pressure.
Well, Yaroslav, it's. I hate to say this, but as you were speaking of it, I remember looking at unfortunately documentaries talking about this example of Nazi Germany back in the day, where many people got locked up, not just the Jewish faith, but others, including Jehovah's Witnesses, with Hitler at the time. It almost seems like I don't know if it's a complete repeat. I don't know if there's new concentration camps, because those being put into prison are put in with others. But I mean, it begs the question: why are peace-loving, faithful, tax-abiding people being thrown into the same prison cell with murderers, rapists, and people that really do a lot of bad? Is anybody asking that question?
It's a very good question, and sometimes after the ban, when journalists approached me and asking my comment about situation in Russia, I many times, as you say, I referred to Nazi time in Germany or to Soviet Union in Russia that history is repeated,
Right.
but in a bad way.
Right.
And as it was in Germany during the Nazi time in Soviet Union, prosecutors or investigators force Jehovah's Witnesses to renounce their faith, to sign the paper. They will not be any more Jehovah's Witnesses, and they will be free. But none of them doing so. They not agree to renounce their faith, and to be in prison now. Yeah, it's not easy. It's very tough. But our friends try to be positive. They share their views with prisoners. They preach to them, and some of them interested of the Bible's truths, and some of them even start Bible studies in prison.
Well, and that's the silver lining, right? Look, I remember there's a very good documentary. I think people should check it out. It's called Purple Triangle. Again, for those that don't know, who usually wore, obviously people were identified based on their religious faith, but those that have a purple triangle in Nazi Germany, who were those, for those that didn't know?
It was Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people talk about the Holocaust, and sometimes people forget that Jehovah's Witnesses were there as well then, and it seems like, as you said, it's almost a repeat of exactly the same thing. I would hope that, Vladimir Putin, hasn't he spoken out about this on a couple of occasions?
Yeah, in December 2018, he said that it's a nonsense to persecute Jehovah's Witnesses, to consider them as extremists, but it's just nice expression. Nothing good happened after that. I would say it happened to the opposite, because Dennis Christensen was jailed for 6 years in a prison, and many raids took place and torture in Surgut, Voronezh, other places. It means that no escape from this situation. Of course, we wait for the European Court decision. Maybe it will be pretty soon. And after that, maybe situation in Russia will change to the better. But it will be also very much depend, will Russia follow that decision or not? We will see.
If you're just joining us, we got Yaroslav Savolsky all the way over there as the representative of the European Association of Jehovah's Witnesses. Yaroslav, for those that want more information on what's going on in your neck of the woods, where can they go?
You can visit our official website, jw.org, or you can go to jw-russia.org. This is also official website for Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia. And you can find there more detailed, more specific information about persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia.
Yaroslav, thank you very much for spending time with us. I can't say more than enough. I think of my mom all the time, and I love my mom. And if anybody was ever to put her in harm's way simply because she professed faith in an eternal God, I would have to, it wouldn't be pretty. Let's just put it that way. I might get locked up just for preventing it. But thank you for being peaceful, loving, and not like me.
Thank you.
All right. We have to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more right after these messages. Stay tuned.